Okay, welcome back. So things might look a little different. We're working with a different computer here. So I promised I was going to tell you guys about Minecraft Rome. In fact, I'm going to show you Minecraft Rome. It's a pretty cool thing, and I think we can learn a lot from it about history. So let's see, where do we want to start? Okay, so basically, you've probably heard of Minecraft. You can build things in Minecraft. Great game, a lot of fun stuff you can do with it. Kind of like building with Legos. And some people, will build one building in Minecraft. This couple of guys, I found out about this project a handful of years ago. They built the entirety of Rome. They just built the whole city of Rome. And gosh, that's impressive. Um, what they did is, and some areas they just kind of filled in because we don't know the details, but they built basically every monument that historians and archaeologists know about in the history of Rome, even some of the ones from later time periods. So it's a really great snapshot of what Rome would have looked like when it was at its peak and had basically all the famous monuments that it still has today. So I'm going to give you guys a tour of this, and along the way, we'll take a look at the contributions of different emperors, what things they created along the way, how Rome became this spectacular city. Augustus Caesar liked to say that he found Rome a city of bricks and made it a city of marble. But he actually, didn't do all of this. He only did his own little part of it. And we're going to see some emperors were extremely influential in this whole process of making this gigantic city. And you can actually download this Minecraft world if you like. That's what I did. It requires a specific texture pack to make it look like this because they have some of the blocks become things like different types of marble and stuff like that. I would be careful because this website, it's not a bad website, but the download link, it might go through some weird websites. It's also a little bit out of date, so we're going to see some glitches along the way, but hopefully nothing too bad. But I have an extra credit option if you want to take a look at this yourself. You could take a look at it by downloading it, or you could go and look at these videos here to do the same extra credit. So I'm going to drop those in the content tab as options for extra credit here. But for now, let me show you my little guided tour. So let's switch the screen share here. First off, we do have a map. That's something you can download too from these same guys who were working on this project for like about 3 years, just kind of keeping going. And I kept checking back on their progress, and they just kept getting further and further along until they finally released it. And you can see from their map that there's quite a lot that they did. If we zoom out, this is the scale we're talking about here. You can see the areas where they just kind of filled in with repeated patterns. But that's okay. A lot of buildings in Rome wouldn't have been that important to talk about, but they got all the main monuments. So it really does feel like a tour of Rome. I'm going to keep checking back on this map. We might look at it a couple times more here. But let's look at some of the big monuments that are associated with particular emperors. Okay, so without further ado, let's go to Minecraft. All right, so welcome to the city of Rome. We are on the docks here. This would be one of the marketplaces where things came in from the docks, or came in from the river, I should say. This is one marketplace. They have like these nice little outdoor stalls, which are very cute and very cool. I believe this is actually at this temple is where they gave out the bread that was the Roman bread ration. So that's pretty cool. And let's see, what I want to do is go and kind of try and follow the route that a triumph would take. So remember, that's that parade that a triumphant general would take, literally triumphant, to show off all his cool stuff to the whole city. So I'm going to be flying around a little bit sometimes, so just bear that in mind. That it might make you a little bit motion sick. Different games affect people in different ways. Well, let's see here. Uh, let's see if we can get to the Circus Maximus from here. I'm actually going to fly now. Let's see. We want to be over here. Thanks for bearing with me. It's not quite the guided tour that you get by walking, but this is where the parade would start, the triumph. So these are the gates of the Circus Maximus, which was the giant racetrack in Rome where the chariot races would happen. And if these doors will let me through, I'll show you. So the parade would start here. And imagine all these people in the seats watching as you go through. You're the victorious general, and you've got all your captives and your treasure in a great parade behind you. And you can also see that these would be the starting gates where the horses would be kept and the chariots would be kept for the chariot races. And they would go around this giant racetrack, which I think on most settings hardly even fits on the screen here. So that's pretty cool. We have the Emperor's box. That's where he would watch the games. And this dividing area here. And behind the Emperor's box, we can see the Emperor's palace. So I'm actually going to leave the racetrack for a second and go visit the Emperor's palace. So fair warning, I'm going to fly here. And you can tell that, you know, the Emperor was pretty closely connected with all of this stuff. We're going to see the end of the racetrack. I don't know. It's still kind of off in the distance there. But this is the Circus Maximus. It's a pretty cool thing. Now, when I go into the Emperor's house, I always get lost. Also, something seems to be glitched up there, or maybe it hasn't loaded all the way. Weird. I don't remember it looking like that. Okay. Let's go. Let's see if we can bumble around inside the Emperor's house and see if we can find his meeting room. So here's one of those atriums, these beautiful outdoor areas that the Emperor might have had. Trouble is this palace is so big I get lost here. It's all on a hill called the Palatine Hill, which is actually where we get the word palace from. Originally, this is just where the rich people lived in Rome, but then the emperor bought all the houses and started building a house for himself. And then eventually Vespasian's son really finished it up to be the way that we know it today. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. If not, I'll just try and find a secret way to get there. We're lost in the Emperor's palace. There's a lot of cool atriums, as you can see. And these will all be accurate. Okay, here's what I'm looking for. So this is the sort of space that the emperor would have received an audience in. This is where people would come to go to beg him for favors. And you can see all the different beautiful colors that they would use, different colors of stone. And the makers of this map have recreated that very effectively. There's another room like this with a big chair for the emperor to sit in, his actual throne room. But I don't know if we're going to be able to find it. But this is, you know, what you should think when you think of an emperor's palace. I'm going to run into this room. Is this the right way? Dang it, why'd you have to be so confusing, emperors? This is outside the palace. I guess that's probably good enough. Some beautiful hallways. Marble columns, that classic look for ancient Romans. I'm going to fly again. So we have this big old Palatine Hill with the emperor's whole complex. He even has his own racetrack or gladiatory arena. And so, you know, this big old complex all built upon this hill, which was so impressive that it's even where we get the word palace from. So flying back to the racetrack here. Of course, everything's going to take time to load, so we'll just have to wait through that. But you can see that the racetrack was pretty closely connected to the palace on the Palatine Hill. So going back down here, finally getting to the other side of the racetrack. I'm going to rush a little bit. Monuments all along the way. You know, people will be watching to see somebody crash, probably at the other end where the big turn is. So if we were to keep following this route, we would go somewhat along here. Let me check my map real quick. Make sure I'm going the right way. Okay, so we actually have to make a 90-degree turn here. Okay. Gardens were very important in making the city look beautiful, and they've recreated that as well. We're going to go around the side of the Palatine Hill and pass under some aqueducts. So these would have been bringing water into the city. Oh, there's a monument set up by Septimus Severus, the African emperor. So we're following the route that the parade would have gone here. And what aqueduct is this? Let's see here. That is the Aqua Claudia. So this one might have been set up by Claudius, actually, or a different Claudius. I forget. But if we keep going, we will pass under one of these triumphal arches. So this is the arch that an emperor who is doing a triumph like this might have set up. And of course, if you set up an arch like this, it shows that you know, all the other emperors and all the other people who watch the parade are going to see the arch and experience that same sort of thing. So they're going to know about you in the future. Let's see, this is the Arch of 82 on the list. What's that? That is the Arch of Constantine. He's a much, much later Roman emperor, but he's a very significant figure, so he's worth noting. But I want to acknowledge where we've ended up. We've ended up at the Colosseum. This is the Flavian amphitheater that Vespasian set up after Nero. Taking Nero's house and his giant lake that he built for himself and building an amphitheater there instead. But this was originally, the nickname for the Flavian amphitheater is the Colosseum. And it gets that name because of a colossus. A colossus is a giant statue. And originally, Nero built a giant statue to himself. And when Vespasian took over, he changed it to be a statue of the sun god. But in this game, they've chosen to represent it as Nero because they have like a secret underground space for Nero. So that's kind of cool. But here's the statue of Nero / the sun god. And here is the amphitheater that Vespasian set up. So let's run on in here. Very impressive building. And it'll be pretty cool once we get inside here. Here we are. We are in the amphitheater, the Colosseum. Are you not entertained? Once again, the emperor would have his own box here. There's also other boxes as well. And the interesting thing, I spawned some people here. People would be in the lower down seats. If they were rich, they would be closer to the action. If they were lower class, they would be in the sort of nosebleed seats up here. And it's really steep compared to like a modern football stadium. So they would be like feeling like they were falling off their chairs, but it was all worth it to see some gladiators go at it. I'm going to fly up and give us another look at it. Here we are. You can see there's a little person to give us a sense of scale there. This is what it would have looked like originally when it was new. Back in the day, it would have, it was complete all the way around. Today, we have a version where the seats have kind of crumbled away and we see like the underneath part of it. But the little poles there would have been used to have sunshades to shade the stadium on hot days. So that's pretty cool. And, you know, you can get a sense of how big it is here, which is pretty cool. Over in the distance there, We have the arena where gladiators would train, and like a little school for gladiators. Now I should mention gladiators were mostly slaves. They didn't have a whole lot of choice in being gladiators, but if they were successful enough, they could earn money and buy their freedom. And they did become kind of sports stars. People rooted for particular ones. Okay, so just real quick, let's switch back over to the PowerPoint here. And let's just look at what these things actually look like in real life. So this is the remnant of the Circus Maximus and the Palatine Hill here. It's hard to, you can't completely see it, but you can kind of see where the divider is, even though it's all grown over with plants. You can kind of see the remnants of the palace there. And today, you know, a road runs right by it, but it is one of the spectacular things to visit if you ever get the chance to go to Rome. Meanwhile, the Flavian Amphitheater, I think I showed it before. Part of it's come away, but it actually is kind of cool. It looks like a cross section. The columns, it uses all three different styles of Greek columns, Dorian, Ionic, and Corinthian, each on a different level. And then inside you have the scaffolding exposed. You also have an underneath area where animals were kept and could sometimes be brought to the surface. So this is what it looks like when the seats have gone away. And then over here, we're again kind of curving around. Oh, sorry, I forgot. You got to switch shares here. Okay, so we're again kind of curving around the Palatine Hill here. And along the way, we're going to stop at this temple. This is the temple of Venus and Roma. I think I mentioned it before. This is a creation of Hadrian's. Hadrian's idea, you know, the Roman Empire itself is what we celebrate, the whole empire, not just, you know, one city, but celebrate everything that is our sort of universe that we have conquered, and celebrate this gigantic empire with all this different stuff going on. And so that's why Hadrian created a temple to the goddess Roma. So this is sort of the spirit of Rome personified, here listed as Roma Aeterna, Rome forever. And I love the way these guys have done these giant statues. It's super cool. You can get a sense of what like the roof of a temple would have looked like. Again, they love the use of different types of stone in their floors and their walls. But this temple was double purposed because it also had the temple to Venus. So this is Venus, aka Aphrodite. Here she is Venus Genetrix, Venus the ancestor, you might say, because she was the ancestor of the first emperors, and they all kind of wanted to claim a connection to her. So you have a symbol of Rome, you have a symbol of the emperors. That is, you know, a great way to depict yourself as a leader. And this is Hadrian's creation, Hadrian the architect, with his giant buildings that he's building here. And we'll see a lot from him, actually. He's pretty prolific. I'm going to jump off the balcony here and go back to the road. So we're back to the road. So once again, flowers all along the way. Seems pretty plausible. We don't know exactly what the gardens looked like, but we do know that Romans loved their gardens. So if we keep going here, that's another way up to the Palatine Hill. But what we want to get to is the Roman Forum. And actually, I think we're a little bit off. We need to go this way. Gonna run. Hope that doesn't give anybody too much motion sickness. Yes, okay, so the forum's over here. We're having a very fast parade. Watch everything go by. Oh, I guess we could have gone either way. Now we are coming into the Roman Forum. So a forum is basically a marketplace slash meeting place, and the Romans loved their forums. They had a bunch of them. But this was the original meeting place where people gathered in Rome. This is where it all started. So it's known as the Forum Romanum, the Forum of the Romans. Later emperors would build more forums because the city got bigger and bigger and they wanted to show off more and more stuff. But we've got some really cool stuff here, even if the textures aren't being perfect over there. We've got triumphal arches. I don't know, that's not the Arch of Titus. There's different arches, but you guys probably don't care that much about which arch is which, but you can learn about the different arches in Rome. But what I want to show off is this sort of open space where people could gather and talk. That was a specific Roman idea that they really celebrated. And then as emperors became more and more important, they started building temples all through the forum. Actually, they were kind of doing that already, even just with the gods. But this is Julius Caesar's temple. So here he is. This is the temple that Augustus built to him. If we fly a little bit, we've got big buildings on either side. Some of them were built by Julius Caesar to be meeting type buildings. He named them after his family members. Let's see. I think we should mention who that statue is. Let's check. That is number 16 on the list. Is it? Sorry, guys. Bear with me here. It doesn't say. I've actually forgotten who the statue is, but I'm almost certain it's an emperor. Actually, the sign will probably tell us. Oh, Constantine. Okay. So he's a later emperor who becomes important, but we don't have to worry about him just yet. We've got an arch. I believe this one is Septimus Severus. We've got also the sewer system, which is, yeah, there's the sewer system right there. So building these temples, building these buildings is part of how the emperors worked. So actually, if we were going on the triumphal route, we'd pass through here. And the emperors just kept cramming more and more temples in here for their dead predecessors. This one is the Temple of Concordia, which is kind of like harmony, peace, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think Vespasian has a temple here. There's a lot of temples. I'm going to fly up and let's see where we're going. We are going up here. So this is the other really important hill in Rome. This is the Capitoline Hill. So I'm going to skip over finding a path up there. I'm just going to fly up there, but I think you would go around like this. Yes. Okay. So this is the Capitoline Hill. And there were temples up here already, but the big one, which comes from very ancient times, and we don't know exactly who gave it its final form, but from very ancient times, Rome had a temple to Jupiter, the Roman name for the god Zeus. And this is their mighty temple to Zeus, Zeus of the Capitoline Hill, up on one of the major hills of Rome. And they've put a nice little beacon there, which probably wasn't there in real life. But here is Zeus himself. And on either side, we've got other important gods. We've got Minerva, the Roman name for Athena. Look at these huge columns too. They're pretty cool. And we've got Juno, the Roman name for Hera. So all the most important gods were up here. And if we fly up and we take a look here, we see that actually has a golden roof, plated with gold, which was, of course, pretty spectacular. I don't know exactly where you would see it from, maybe some of the other hills, but, it would shine with the light. And if you could catch a glimpse of it, it would be a pretty impressive monument. We've got other theaters. I think that might be the theater made by a guy, Marcellus. I'm not 100% sure on that, but this is where the great parade ends. So you come up here with the parade, you go up to the altar here, and you make a sacrifice to the gods. You sacrifice a pig or a cow or a goat or something like that. I'm gonna leave a little guy here to preside over the sacrifice. He doesn't want to? Okay, he doesn't want to do the sacrifice. Okay, I guess he's not gonna do the sacrifice. Okay, So from here, what I want to show you is some of the other forums that emperors set up. Meeting places, you know. We see the Palatine Hill over there. Actually, this might be a good time to stop and look at our map. So let me switch shares over to the map here. So here's the map. Let me show you the route that we have gone on. We start off on the docks here. We went through the sort of meeting place of the docks, and then we went into the Circus Maximus. We visited the palace up here on the Palatine Hill. We went through the Circus Maximus, and then we went up and around over here. We saw the Flavian Amphitheater and the gladiators' training grounds. We saw the Temple of Venus and Roma. And then we went over here into the Forum of the Romans. And then we went up here to Zeus Capitoline, or sorry, Jupiter Capitoline, the Capitoline Hill. So you can kind of see the outline of the different hills of Rome here. But I'd say the Capitoline and the Palatine are the most important. All right, now we are going to go north here and just take a look at some of these different forums. So back to here. So flying might be the best way to look at these. Different emperors come in and they clear some land and they say, okay, well, you know what? I am making a meeting place for the Roman people, and I am making a meeting place for the Roman people. I think this one was set up by Augustus because, you know, his uncle slash dad set one up, so he had to do one. This one's kind of in between a walking place and not, and like a regular old forum. They had different temples too, to different gods. Some of them were the emperors. But the one I really want to focus on is the Forum of Trajan over here. You remember our guy Trajan? He was you know, the big world conqueror who brought Rome to its biggest extent. And here is a statue of him on a horse, showing off how glorious and impressive he is. These little mini statues here would have originally had heads, but the game's glitching out, so we won't worry about that. So here's Trajan on his horse, and what did he do? He won this great battle against the Dacians. He conquered the Dacians. And so to celebrate, he actually dug something out of the hills here and cleared this space so he could build himself his own temple. Sorry, he didn't build his own temple, but his own forum for the Roman people. And if we look at the size, I think I put a person down there. Where'd he go? I'll put another one. You know, it's a pretty big space. A lot of people can gather here. So it's a gift to the Roman people, but one that shows off how powerful he is. But Trajan did not stop there. No, sir. He also made a marketplace, which are known as the markets of Trajan. And they are right over here, set into the hillside. So you'd have these different stalls all along the way, kind of like an ancient Roman shopping mall. Hello, anything we can get for you? Nope. Oh, yeah. No, you're not interested in trading. Okay. There, he's doing his shopping. Okay. So, you know, different stalls along this shopping mall would have been places to get goods, and there's multiple floors here. But Trajan didn't stop there. He also had this basilica building. These are the kinds of buildings that you know, government business was often done in, the basilica. It's basically a long hallway with lots of columns. I think I mentioned Julius Caesar made a few of them too. And this is Trajan's basilica, the Basilica Oppia, I believe it's called. I think that's named after someone that was in Trajan's family. And he had a library. Actually, I want to say library might have actually been his successor, Hadrian. So, but connected with this whole complex is the library. And the library would have been buildings on two sides here. And then finally, the last contribution by Trajan I can mention is Trajan's column. So this is a giant column, and all along it are depictions of what he did on horseback, what he did to win the war against the Dacians. It's showing the whole story of the war in almost like comic strip form, in that it like shows the images and it shows the words. And here's the description of the monument. And eventually when Trajan died, his ashes were buried in here. And I think they've actually set it up. So yeah, here's the ashes of Trajan. If we went up these stairs, we could go take a look at the top. I think that's actually something you could do in real life too. But we don't need to do that. We can fly. So those textures aren't quite showing up quite right. But here we are at the top. Pretty impressive view. One teacher I had thought that this area might have actually been the gateway to the city, which is pretty cool, the whole Trajan area. And then finally, we have a temple built for him by Hadrian. So Hadrian, his successor, of course, he's got to build Trajan a temple. These are two of the most spectacular emperors, and so they are really going to show off. Here we are. Divine Marcus Ulpius Nerva Trajanus, or Trajanus. That's our guy Trajan. They all have nicknames, so we can keep track of them better. But here's Trajan, and yeah, here's his statue where he can be worshipped. All right. So I think that's most of what I wanted to show you guys, but there's one more thing. We've seen Hadrian do quite a lot. I think he did the libraries. I'm not 100% sure. He definitely did the temple to Trajan. And there's one more monument that we should mention as being a spectacular achievement by Hadrian, and that is the Pantheon. So can I not, oh dear. Okay. I guess we're going to fly to the Pantheon because right now my teleport's not working. Or is it? No, actually it is. Never mind. I can use teleports. There are also, if you do end up exploring this, there are teleports buttons under the throne of Zeus, throne of Jupiter. So, you know, just keep that in mind. There are also a lot of secrets, which are fun, like Doctor Who references and stuff like that. But let's look at the last really cool building that people talk about for Rome, one which is still around today. This is the Pantheon. 64, 442. There we go. Okay. Am I looking the right way or the wrong way? Oh no, this is not where I want to be at all. Technical difficulties, sorry. Negative 442. Okay, get my coordinates right. I'm glad I didn't end up in the middle of the ground. All right, so first off, we have this big old complex here, big old area, and then it's all leading us towards this temple. This is the Pantheon, the temple to all the gods. And what I learned is that this was actually built by Hadrian. Some people now are thinking it might have been built by Trajan, but I want to give Hadrian the credit because it seems like his type of thing to build this gigantic, beautiful building. Now, originally, there was another building on the same location, but Hadrian or whoever remade it kind of redid everything almost from scratch. Originally, it still has written on it, made by Agrippa, who was a friend of Augustus's. But we now think that it was definitely rebuilt later. And so if it was Hadrian, Hadrian didn't put his name on it. He still wanted to give Agrippa the credit, even though Hadrian had done a lot of the redesigning. And on the outside, there would be statues to Agrippa and to Augustus. And one thing I haven't mentioned, but we should, is that Roman temples have a front. Like they have an entranceway in a way that Greek temples don't. They have like more columns on the front, where Greek columns, it's just the same all around. But let's go into the Pantheon here. Welcome to the Pantheon. The Pantheon is probably the first known building in history to have a significant dome. So once you've started playing around with arches, domes kind of come next because, again, like arches, they can hold their structure really well as these as this shape that's really strong and bears the weight. And in real life and in game, the Pantheon is always spectacular. You just see the space open up above you, and what there would have been here would have been statues to the most important Roman gods. So it's a little glitched out because they don't have heads, but you get the idea. Different statues to all the gods and an altar for worshiping in them. The dome is open at the top, which makes it stronger as a structure. It also lets in sunlight, which makes the whole space brighter. And you can't quite see that in Minecraft, but it would kind of almost been a spotlight in the middle. There's a drain, which we see here. There's a way to open and close it with levers here, but I haven't figured it out in a while. But that would, if the rain came in, the drain would take care of that. And yeah, this is just really a spectacular building. And now let's do something you can't do in real life, which is fly through the hole in the dome. So we're flying up, going right through that hole there. Here we are, looking at the dome from the outside. Now I feel bad for the mod makers because you can't quite do a dome in Minecraft, but you can kind of get a sense of what the building would look like. Originally, there was some more stuff attached to it, but the part that's still around today would have been this main part here. So the front and the dome area, so not that part over to the side. And is still around because it was turned into a church and is one of the most impressive monuments from ancient Rome that we still have around today. It's actually a fair distance from the other monuments in the city because by the time you were building things like this, a lot of the real estate had already been taken. So they built to the west in the western part of the city where there was less population. But yeah, the Pantheon, I think if we, I want to say it's still Hadrian. I'm a believer, but we'll see how people feel about it in years from now. But it does seem like Hadrian's sort of thing because he did love building domes, being an amateur slash emperor architect. Yeah, and here we are in an western part of the city where we're pretty far away from all the main stuff. But that just means the emperors get to add more and more monuments over here in later time periods. If we switch back to our map here, we looked at the forums over here. Here's Trajan's Forum, Trajan's Basilica, Ulpia, Trajan's libraries, the temple to Trajan that Hadrian built, the column of Trajan that shows his military victories. And then we went all the way over here to get to the Pantheon over here, which is number 59 right here. You guys were able to see that, right? Yes, okay. Yes, so these are the other monuments of Rome. If we zoom out, we see this very dense city. It had 1 million people in it at its greatest extent, we're pretty sure, and all sort of based around this river and these hills. So this is why people talk up Rome, because it was extremely spectacular and not surprising for a city that controlled most of the known world. The Western world, you might say, the Mediterranean world would be another way to put it. But there's a lot of different cool stuff in this. And as you can see, I barely had time to get into it. Just Rome is a fascinating city with a lot of fascinating monuments that are still around today. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint one more time, just so we can take a look at some of the more real life equivalents. This is Trajan's Column. So here we have images of his soldiers. Basically, he took every moment that happened in his military battles, in his conquest of Dacia, and he, showed all the cool stuff that he did along the way, all the cool stuff his soldiers did. So they're doing things like chopping down trees to, get wood for their fires. They're building walls, stuff like that. Like I said, the Roman soldiers were often very good engineers, and it just basically tells the whole story in chronological order all the way up the column here. You can see some battles and some armor, shields and swords there. And yeah, it's still around. You can see it in the city of Rome if you ever go to Rome. And it survived because they put a statue of the Pope up on top. Originally, would not have had that. But you know, being important to later religion is a good reason why a lot of these things have survived. And here's our image of the Pantheon, modern Pantheon. Yeah, it says on the outside of it, Agrippa made this, but we think that was just Hadrian or whoever being humble. You can see the area where the statues would have been, which is pretty cool. And then you go inside and you have the dome. One thing I wasn't able to show was that the dome has these sort of recesses carved out into it, which makes it lighter and makes it sturdier. And yeah, to this day, a very popular place to visit and a very cool one to visit if you get the chance. That would these would be definitely all be on the tour if you wanted to go to Rome today. I think it's great that we still have these monuments around to think about and to talk about. And this is all part of the legacy of Rome. And I'm just so tickled that people made a gigantic Minecraft map out of it, which gives us the opportunity to explore the city of Rome and see all the cool things that there are to see. All right. What I want to have the discussion question be for today is a discussion of the emperors. How did they use monuments to make their people love them, to be more celebrated? How did they use things like spectacle, like gladiator matches and chariot racing to make the people be on their side? And what examples would you give? Based on what we've talked about, I bet you can think of a few. So I will see you in the discussion section. And if you want to do some extra credit, feel free to check out more of Minecraft Rome. And I'll put links to that in the content page. All right, take care.